have slides, but I've got some notes here. I'm going to have a look at those as we go. Let me unlock the beast. And I feel quite shy, I can't see you all, so let's just take a breath together. Just help me land in my body. And I think all good sex can start with just taking a breath together, because it can often be a franticness. Oh yeah, I'm gonna get some. Rah. Just like slowing down, being present, coming to the body, and just super powerful stuff. The healing power of conscious kink is my talk. I'm going to define some terms. When we talk about healing, we're talking about recovering from wounds, recovering from traumas, also about empowering ourselves with in the world we live in. So I want to put a disclaimer at the very start that I'm not a therapist, and conscious kink is not a therapy, but it can be very therapeutic if you bring it consciously, if you explore it consciously, and give due diligence with awareness of consent and boundaries and communication. But don't project therapists or anything like that onto me, or alchemists, but that's kind of receive alchemists. I'm going to say briefly about my journey. I've always been super kinky and always had these quite dark, violent fantasies, and I didn't know where they came from. It's like, there was a trigger warning at the beginning, right? I'm just going to re-emphasize that. So I'm going to cover some dark materials. I always had these dark fantasies about overpowering people and hurting people. And where does this come from? Why would I want to hurt someone? I'm such a good boy, a good Jewish boy from Seani. Why do I want to hurt him? But the fantasies were strong, you know. When the other boys in my school were like talking about getting laid and getting sex, my fantasies weren't so much about that, but they're about hurting people. And many people in this room would fantasize about that. I've since discovered more about being hurt. Doing some soul searching. It's all around rejection traumas and wounds, and the fantasy often played out. It can sound quite bestial, but in the core is like, if I force someone to do something sexually, they might resist at first, but eventually they'll realize they enjoy it, and then they're going to fall in love with me. And when I was self-pleasuring thinking about this, they fall in love with me and I would have an orgasm. And that was a recurring masturbatory, is that a word? Masturbatory fantasy. Oh, this microphone. You can hear it back anyway. So I was quite a fluffy hippie. I hated these darker fantasies. I hated fantasizing about hurting people. So becoming quite a fluffy hippie and getting into all the spiritual stuff and woo stuff and crystals and meditation and Confest and hippie festivals and Satya Sai Baba and incense, which I can't really stand these days. You might burn a little bit of sage every now and then, but just trying to fight this part of myself that was evil and menacing, like a beast was inside me. I wanted to unconsciously suppress it. So it was quite a journey. There's some stages in my 20s of, with some partners and some lovers saying, it was really unconscious kink back then. And it was like saying, pretend you don't like it. And when they pretended they didn't like it, somehow that gave me some kind of rush. And that didn't make sense either. Why would that make a rush? And with one lover in my late 20s, we used to do spanking. And I'd spank her. And I loved it, and she loved it. And we had gender equality in our minds. So she was spanking too, but neither of us liked that. It is liberation, you have to do it. But it's like, so there's some inner feminist inside here. But fast forward to about the mid-noughties, about 2005 something. I was dating someone who always froze up when we were being sexual. So we didn't have sex. And I told her about my fantasies, And she said she was into ritual and I was into ritual, and she said, I'm going to design a ritual where we do a reenactment of something that had happened to her. The last week I spoke about reenactment, didn't I? I think. And she said, I want to do a reenactment of something. And she told me I had to bring my beast energy, this wildness, this violence, so she could retrace the steps of where this trauma got stuck in her body. And she sort of like micromanaged by saying, hold me this way, say these words, pronounce them this way. And she kind of like mapped inside herself. And I had to pour a certain kind of alcohol on herself just to reproduce the smell. And she really traced the steps inside herself, and there was this really huge cathartic moment where she really got to that point inside herself where, yeah, it was just like a really big energy in the room. And that really set her free. But during the process, she kept saying, on again, off again, turn yourself on again, off again. So I was like activating this beast and then subduing it. And I learned that you can have conscious control over this sort of beast energy, or this beast archetype, if you like that word. So it really set herself free. She became quite a sexual being, but also set me free because it realized that that dark, evil presence, or that sort of dark beast archetype inside me is actually something good and can be really healing. And she said, Seani, this is your medicine for the world. Oh my God, is that time up? She said, Seani, this is your medicine for the world. So I went and did all the workshops I could. Barbara Corellis, Dossie Easton, Raven Caldera. Has anyone done Raven Caldera? I organised Raven Caldera's book. It was called Shamanic BDSM. And I organised his workshop in London in 2010. And people, I'm trying to be really succinct, but people flew over from Prague. And they said, Seani, we can't get Raven to come to Prague. So they asked me, would I go to Prague to run a Shamanic BDSM workshop? And I did. And during the workshop, someone asked for a private session, a cathartic beating, which I gave them. And I realized, wow, there's something really in this thing that I need to, I'm able to spread to the world and bring it out. And so I ran more and more workshops. Shamanic BDSM is quite a woo title, isn't it? It's like out there. And I still love it, but I've tried to make the work much more accessible. So it's evolved through many different titles, and now Conscious Kink just sounds the most accessible. There can be lots of woo, and there will be lots of woo this weekend. I'm doing a workshop this weekend. Is anyone coming to that? Oh my God. Yay. There's 2 spots left. Oh my God. Get them. Where's Lex? Lex is here. Are you shy? Hi. Lex is my co-teacher. We're going to spank each other. Come and watch. Let's just take a breath. So yes, it's evolved through many different names, different focus points. So sometimes retracing the steps can be a really powerful point. And when you retrace the steps of some past events, you can change the ending of it. And sometimes changing the ending of the story overlaps other healing modalities like family constellations or all these kind of drama therapies. And you can change the ending where you either relax your body when you tighten up at the time, or where you find words such as no or stop that you didn't find before. And I think finding that can be a really powerful thing. Finding those no's that you didn't express when you needed to. I'll ask the room, have you ever done something sexually with someone that you didn't want to do, but you didn't say stop for some reason? Anyone? I mean, nearly everyone in the room has crossed their own boundaries. Peer pressure, or fear of rejection, or fear of violence, or many different reasons. So, Conscious Kink really has consent and boundaries as the sort of bedrock, and continual check-in. Another breath. Yeah, continual check-in. There's many aspects to Conscious Kink. And some of the more common ones would be like impact play, which is spanking, or power exchange, which is I'm going to do what you say for a little while, thank you, mistress, or vice versa. Consensual non-consent is a really big part, which is consensual non. I've got 2 minutes left. Okay. Consensual non-consent is those fantasies where you're imagining being forced to do something. Let's stick with impact play because we've got 2 minutes left. Impact play, there's so many different ways it can be healing. Like, just give your hand a little, ladies and gentlemen, just give your hand a little. And just feel your hand after it. There's like a buzz that lasts quite a while as the blood rushes through. So instead of being scared of being spanked, this sensation can be quite useful. Done in the right way, it can be really cathartic. We end up releasing loads of locked up emotion. And so many people have locked their emotions away inside their body. There's a gendered aspect, not strictly, but often it'll be girls who are socialised to keep the anger down and suppressed. Like little girls, don't be angry, do you want your period shut up and silenced? And yeah, using the right kind of impact play or some of these other Kink techniques, you can sort of find that fucking rah inside you that's buried away. And it's so beautiful to find that. Often little boys are socialised, don't cry. Don't be a little wuss, don't be a little girl. And the right kind of impact play can really help people find those emotions and find those tears and unlock tears. So the right kind of impact play, usually for me it's like a sharp slap on the back. Can really help me dislodge tears that are otherwise hard to bring out. Let's take a quick breath. When someone's a really powerful person in the world, as a boss or doing important things, conscious Kink can provide time's up. Conscious Kink can provide that space where you finally get to surrender. We can switch your brain off. If you're an overthinker and your mind's always racing, some mental health issues over like that, and the right kind of surrender, such as giving your power to somebody. How can I serve you? And you're waiting for the person you're serving to give instructions. And all those parts of your brain that overthink can switch off for a duration, and that can be really healing and really beautiful. Or to be bound by a rope, you can't move, you can't think. It's such a sacred space. It can be really healing. I mean, we're just scratching the surface in a 12-minute talk. If you're free this weekend, speak to me. And yeah, thank you all so much for listening. Thanks so much to the other speakers as well. They're all very special, aren't they? Thanks, everyone.